This might just look like an extra large suitcase, but hidden inside is a rooftop tent. And why would anyone want something like this? Because traditional rooftop tents are massive 150-pound bricks. It kills your gas mileage, it's a full-time commitment, and you cannot take it off by yourself. Honestly, it's a hassle. And this weighs just 62.9 pounds. So what? Who cares? This means it can go from your trunk to a full campsite completely alone. But this 63-pound inflatable design comes with two major trade-offs that you have to know about before you buy. And one of them could be a total deal breaker. And today we're gonna find out if the pros outweigh the cons. Let's run the gauntlet. Okay, so here's the magic. This entire tent fits inside of this bag. And you don't make it like a traditional tent or put it together. This thing is all rolled up and it's entirely inflatable. My tent came with what looks like a shoe bag, a pretty standard ladder, and a small accessory pack. Now, what I don't see in my tent that I was looking for is a pump, but what I do have is the Schrader adapter, and the Schrader adapter should allow me to hook up my emergency tire inflator pump to get this thing topped off. So let's see if that works. But before I can top off the tent, I've got to go ahead and get this thing set up and ready to deploy. And there is my air valve right there. And so it looks like this valve just goes in and locks right into place, no problem. But now I've got to figure out how to get inside of the tent. And there is, of course, a massive zipper that looks like if I unzip it, I'm going to open up the entire system. For now, I'm going to go ahead and put this thing away, but I wouldn't be surprised if this turns out to be a rain fly or something like that. It feels like the right material, and it definitely does a good job of serving that second purpose of helping package all this up for when you want to put it away later. But why am I talking about putting it away when I haven't even gotten this thing inflated yet? Let's get some air in it. Playdo says to fill this thing up to 12 to 15 PSI. So I'm gonna go ahead and set it on an even 13 and get this thing going. So this inflation with this thing was going so heinously slow that I pulled out another one just to see if maybe this one was bad, because this thing is several years old. But even that other one is taking forever. It's been literally 30 minutes since I started. I don't even have one of those beams pumped up yet. So I decided it was time to break out the big guns. This thing should solve that problem pretty quickly, as long as I don't blow anything under the hood. Well guys, it's about a week later. I gave up on that other pump. What was happening is that valve adapter that I put in there, I couldn't actually check the pressure because it's a double lock system. So I ended up getting this accessory inflator pump. And let me tell you, if you're gonna get this tent, you definitely want to get this pump along with it. This tells you exactly how much pressure is inside the tent. And it also has an auto stop feature. When you get to the right PSI, this thing will stop inflating. So this tent is actually super lightweight. It doesn't feel heavy at all. I could lose it pretty easily, but when you go to secure it to your vehicle, you're gonna pull this out of your trunk, you're gonna inflate it, and then you're gonna have these 4 D-rings that go all the way around, one on each corner. Hook this up to your roof rack. I've also seen some people hooking this up to their tires. Before I put it on my roof, I wanted to go ahead and show you guys inside of the tent. This thing, believe it or not, is actually pretty sturdy feeling. I'm about to jump on it. I don't have any support in the middle, so hopefully I don't cave through the bottom. If I do, I'll have to rearrange how I have everything set up, but let's go for it. Oh God. that is pretty risky. I don't want to test it too much because this is supposed to have the cross members of your main roof rack underneath it, and there is nothing supporting the bottom of this tent, and I don't feel like I'm going to cave in. The other thing is there is no mattress on top of this, but I don't feel like my hip right here is digging in too bad into the tent. So in a bind, I could either sleep with this without a mattress, or I could probably add a very thin, maybe memory foam or just a cot mattress kind of thing, maybe even a camping mat, without sacrificing too much comfort and be comfortable in this tent. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is these beams. The beams, I mean, you're not going to be hanging from them, but they are actually pretty stable. This thing, in my opinion, is a larger tent than something maybe 2 or even 3 times the weight. There is a little bit of hassle with the setup. I would definitely recommend the pump, but overall, this thing does not feel bad inside. There's plenty of zippers going all the way around. It looks like if I wanted to, I could completely remove the structure from the tent itself. Now, one thing I am curious about, if you remember in the beginning of the video, I had that sheet, that thing that came off of this. I wonder if that is a weatherproof seal. So we got the zipper here. Each of the zippers all looks basically the same. Very easy to pull. Let's see how it goes down. Back up, not a hassle at all. This thing was already open, so let's go ahead and close this up and see how this looks. That one's even easier, believe it or not. And then inside here, we've got a nice little pocket. It is a zipperable pocket, so probably I could have put my pump inside of there if I wanted to, but overall the zippers aren't too bad. Pretty crazy. Almost the entire roof is a dual panoramic roof, so, and it also looks like it's waterproof, so I feel like I could leave this open all night, camp in here, check out the stars while I'm sleeping, have a pretty decent experience. This thing has been sitting out in my yard for over a week, just waiting for that pump to come in, and it has rained in this week, and it's absolutely bone dry inside, except for where I unzipped it and a little bit of this ice fell off and into the tent. So this thing is definitely waterproof. Another sign that it's probably pretty waterproof is that this is made out of the same material as those inflatable kayaks. And in fact, Playdo does have some videos on their website of people actually out using this thing as its own floatable tent. I'm not able to try that out here where I'm at, but it is something, if you have something like this, you might consider doing that. I don't know, to me it'd be a little risky, and make sure of course you have some oars. The number one question that I have is, by myself, can I lift this onto my minivan and tie it down? So let's try that out. So the kit does come with 4 ratchet straps. These things don't look more than maybe about a 100-pound load rating, but there's plenty of hooks to go around. What I'm gonna try to do is hook these up to my tires. They feel like they're about 20 feet long, plenty length to double up and get to where I need to go. So I do like that this is self-locking, but I feel like this might have been better if it was a cam lock device. It might have helped if I had put these through the rings before I lifted the tent up, but not a huge deal. Luckily I have at least one of these tied down because that breeze was gonna knock this thing over. The wind is actually pretty strong. I've got it buckled down pretty tightly. Doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. But the next thing I want to look at is how good does this ladder work for this tent. So unlike most ladders that I've seen on rooftop tents, this one doesn't seem to lock in. So you have to be careful when you go to set this up. It looks like you're going to want to use these 2 locking straps right here. One concern I have is because this doesn't lock in, that everything is going to be hanging off of these 2 cam locks right here once you get going. So not convinced that's the best design so far, but let's give it a try and see how it works. Because there's so much air inside of this base, you can see right here, this thing is definitely not moving. It's actually very solid. And my initial concerns, I'm not too worried about, because the weight of the ladder is actually leaning on the beam right here. And in fact, if I was worried about that, I could increase that angle a little more, and that'll give me a little more weight directly on the beam as opposed to pulling downwards. But so far, I'm worried about like this. Is this the right length? But nothing feels like it's gonna fall out from under me. Well guys, I'm in the tent. It actually feels pretty solid. It looks like there might be some lighting. Oh, there's some lighting up on the roof right here. I don't have a battery to test that out right now, but this is really just a quick intro to this inflatable rooftop tent, which could be the answer to a lot of people's camping. Now, one con, a very significant con, or maybe a few on the same thread, is it's not super heavy, but it's heavy for a suitcase. It takes a while to air up, so don't envision like some of those newer rooftop tents that you're gonna show up at your campsite and be ready to go to sleep in 3 to 5 minutes. I would definitely plan for 30 minutes, maybe even an hour for your first setup. You could probably get that down, but once you get this thing set up inside, it's more roomy than a traditional rooftop tent, and it doesn't take up that much space, and you're not going to be lugging it around every day, even if you're only going camping maybe once every couple months or so. Another con that I would consider for something like this is for $1,500 plus or minus, there are other options out there that are, you know, your traditional rooftop tents that weigh maybe 50 pounds more. So if weight's your true consideration, those might be an option. I would say another big pro of this design is, even though it is an inflatable tent, it doesn't feel soft like a waterbed. It actually feels pretty sturdy. I'm impressed with that. That's the biggest concern that I had. I was worried that maybe these air beams would be sagging, or that the base would sink in or cave in as I got on it. But this thing is honestly pretty solid. It reminds me of those gymnastics mats. Overall, it's a pretty phenomenal design. Now, am I gonna take this camping with me? I think I'm gonna keep this in my arsenal of off-grid equipment so that when I go minivan camping with my family, I can have this extra space without taking up too much space inside of the van, so that we can have comfortable sleeping arrangements for multiple people. I think that's where this thing truly pays off. On top of that, it does not have to be on my roof. I could have simply left this on the ground and just camped in it directly in the ground. And in fact, they say that it's 8 PSI, which is what I have it filled up to now, but on the ground, you really only need 3 to 5 PSI for a comfortable base. So the 8 PSI helps keep it stable, and as tough as this thing feels, I feel like even 5 PSI would still be sufficient.